this mic on. What's wrong with Orny Adams? I'll start with what's wrong with Orny Adams. That's me. I'm doing too much. Ever since we got out of that COVID lockdown, I feel like I have to do too much. I'm overwhelmed. I'm stressed. I'm so overwhelmed, and my brain is so fogged and confused that, write that song, Led Zeppelin. I'm so fogged and confused that on the last podcast with Jason Ellis, I confused. I called Eric Stoltz Jason Stoltz. I amalgamated the names. I combined Jason and Stoltz, which is ridiculous because they couldn't be more different. You know, Eric Stoltz, not the actor I call him. Eric Stoltz, my sound engineer, is a nerd. Guy's a nerd. And in mom jeans. And Jason is like, you know, a tough guy, tattooed head to toe, literally. A scary, menacing looking guy who eats nerds like Eric Stoltz, not Jason Stoltz, so he gets enough energy to eat more nerds. I've got to do less. I've got to do less. That's my goals for 2025, is to do less. I need to stop. I've got to be less involved with the podcast. I can't be involved with all the technical. Like before I got in here, I just posted the clip of me and Jason on Instagram and TikTok, and I put it on my Patreon and blah, 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 blah. And the day before I was editing it, and I was editing. I know you've heard this a million times. I shouldn't complain, but I've got to do less. I've got to hand that off. Boy, I was so jealous yesterday. I did Jason Ellis's podcast. You walk in, it's like, you know, he's got a dedicated room. He's not cramped up in a Shasta trailer. And it feels professional. He's got a crew. We're sitting there. I'm thinking, who's going to turn the cameras on? And then, like a podcast angel, a guy with a mullet appears and turns the cameras on. I'd love to have a guy with a mullet working on my podcast. That's all I'm asking for. A guy with a mullet that can turn the cameras on, that can edit it, can do the promos, can post it. I just need some help. I should get an intern. That's what I should do. It's so hard to give up the promo that I edited yesterday, where it's me telling Jason Ellis that stand-up comedy will destroy his life, which I think is funny because this guy's been through everything. I mean, it's the first podcast I've posted on What's Wrong with Orny Adams that comes with a warning label. This guy's, his life is that dark. And so I thought it'd be funny if I said, hey, here's the deal. Stand-up comedy is going to take you down. It's going to be the one thing that destroys you, because it is a lot harder and soul-wrenching and destroying than anybody realizes. And so wouldn't it be funny if tough guy Jason Ellis gets taken down by stand-up comedy? The thing that Orny Adams survived? Wouldn't that be great? Let's do it. What's Wrong with Orny Adams, episode 125. I'm doing too much. Maybe that's the name of the podcast. I'm doing too much. Wouldn't surprise me if I even didn't turn on the sound recording today.
He's got crazy hair.
Not as crazy. Getting lots of comments about my new haircut. Wait till you see the back, everybody.
What's his name, Kev? Orny.
That's right, that's me. I want to thank everybody that is listening to this podcast. It is experiencing, bringing this down. This is how I know if Eric listens. It is mom jeans when he edits. If he actually brings it down. When I say I'm bringing it down. I want to thank everybody. I would describe this podcast as having exceptional growth. The listenership is just like my Apple stock. I want to thank everyone that's signing up on Patreon. More and more people are supporting me. Thank you. It's a direct support to the arts. Thank you. It's so I don't have to beg advertisers and do this sort of thing. So thank you. Patreon.com/Orny. And if you want to talk to me and send me emails and tell me what you think of my hair, or in general, I'm just getting a lot of emails. I appreciate it. The email for the podcast is what'swrong@ornyadams.com, which is also the email if you want to hire me for like private shows or whatever. There's a lot of incoming, which I love. I love. But then at the same time, I was really bummed yesterday, and I told Jason this. I don't have an agent or manager. I have an assistant. But everything funnels through me. So I see the rejection right in my face. Look at this. See this? That's rejection coming right at me. And, I'm dealing with my 2025 dates, doing as much as I can. In this one venue, we had a date, and then they moved me, which I'm fine with because it's so far out. And then they called again 2 days ago, and they said, "Hey, we've got to move it again. How's your this month looking?" Now, I'm starting to feel like they don't respect me. They said, things happen. Things don't happen to the comedians that, sell out 6 months in advance. I sell a lot at this venue. I do really well. Like, there shouldn't be an issue whether they want me back. They should hold a date for me. But I just feel like, and when you don't have an agent or manager, which I recommend most people maybe don't, it feels like they use their leverage of having multiple clients to move people like me that they know does not have an agent or manager. So I feel pushed around. And when you've already given them 3 weeks and 1 month that you were available, and now they're asking if you're available another month, makes you look like a loser. I feel like a loser. Oh, no, it's just, this is business. You know how it is. Yeah, I know how it is. I know if I was this comedian, not to compare myself, you wouldn't remove my week ever. So yeah, I do know how it is. I hate the business side of this. Just want to be on stage in front of you guys. And I love the democracy of stand-up comedy. I'll tell a joke. I'll tell a story. You can laugh or you can not laugh. That's your business. Should I talk about what I am and what I'm doing? I wasn't going to record a podcast today, but I'm going, I'll be in Phoenix this weekend. And by the time this airs, I'll be gone from Phoenix. So I wanted to record something so I could edit it in Phoenix because I come back. I'm back in Los Angeles for one day, and then I go to Las Vegas for a night. So I'll be at the Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club the night this airs. And then I'm off to New York City for a private show. And I'm gone basically for a week and a half. So I had to get this done. And, I'm enthused by the number of people that are listening to the podcast and sharing the podcast. I wish more of you would take time to subscribe. Subscribe to my YouTube. Subscribe on Spotify or Apple to my content. And write reviews. If you like it, it helps to write reviews. Because if somebody looks at this podcast and says, "Oh, look, it only has, 130 reviews," they're going to think this isn't a well watched or listened to podcast, which is bullshit. I know the numbers. I know you're out there. So if you want to help me and support me, that's something that you can do, which costs you nothing. Now, I have to say, I'm getting on a plane tomorrow, and although it's a short flight, I find a lot of my anxiety from flying comes from feeling claustrophobic. And I can't believe that these astronauts are now stuck in space. This Starliner, another fantastic Boeing aircraft. Thank you, Boeing. Another. I own so much of this stock, and it sucks. All they do is build aircrafts, and they can't get the doors to stay on. They can't get it right. They don't even build that many in a year. It is shocking. It makes me nervous to travel. And I want to say this before I continue. In September 2022, and in my notes prior to this, I'm alluding to this notion that we're all going to go to Mars. This whole fantasy, we ruined Earth, so we're all going to go to Mars. Like, it's so bad on Earth, we're going to go to a planet that doesn't have oxygen. I've been talking about this forever, but I realized it's never going to happen, not in my lifetime, because just take this example of the Starliner. They're supposed to be up there for 7 days or 8 days, and now they're going to be up there for 6 months. Starting to feel like Gilligan's Island, right? It was a 1-day tour, then they end up on the island forever. So they're stuck up there. So if we can't get these two people back in less than 6 months, how are we all going to get to Mars? How is that going to happen? How's the transportation? And here's the other thing. They'll scrub a mission for any reason. So this is from September 2022. You think travel sucks now. Wait till we move to Mars and the mission's delayed because there's a drizzle off the coast. There's always like a drizzle off of the coast of Florida, Cape Canaveral. There's always like, yeah, the winds are coming in. It's like, can't you just shoot the rocket through that stuff? Like, that makes me nervous. So, yeah, I'm pessimistic about us ever getting it together and going to Mars. So the Starliner was supposed to be an 8-day trip to space, turned into months. NASA officials announced over the weekend that the troubled spacecraft will return to Earth without them. If I was up there, I'd get in it. I don't care about the leak. Wilmore and Williams, it sounds like Williams and Sonoma, sounds like they should open a store selling home goods, have been on the International Space Station since engineers discovered helium leaks and issues involving thrusters. Shortly before Boeing's CST-100 Starliner docked. Nice going, Boeing. Nice going. Get your thrusters together. While Wilmer is in space, this is the dude. This dude was in the military, was in Desert Storm, flew over Iraq, badass guy. Wearing a belt in space. Something Eric Stoltz would do, not the actor. My sound engineer, wear a belt with his jeans in space. I would just have sweatpants. I'd walk around like Adam Sandler up in space. I'd float like Sandler. While Wilmer is in space, his wife Deanna and their daughters Darren and Logan live in Texas. And she said, you just sort of roll with it and expect the unexpected. The good news? The Wilmer's family get to FaceTime him several times a day. How? My cable never works. I'm on Earth. How can we not get my cable to work? My internet is they should call it intermittent net. I was on the phone yesterday. Guy was troubleshooting about an hour. I said, I got to get out of here. I got to go do the Jason Ellis podcast. I said, how about this? Could you call me back? Took down my number. He's going to call me back after he's going to run some tests. Guy's running tests over there. Wherever he is. I said, the tests are coming back. Everything's fine. Let me tell you something. The TV freezes multiple times a day. It's not fine. I start uploading a large file. It freezes. It's not fine. It's not fine. Fix my cable. Fix my internet. It has not been the same since the crooks cut the copper cables a few months ago. Meanwhile, Wilmer up in space, floating around for 6 months, perfect reception on FaceTime. I'd like NASA to do my cable. What I just read here was from Fox News. Oh, here's the end. Ready? Wilmer and Williams are now set to return on SpaceX Crew Dragon mission. Now, here's the other thing. I know they probably spent a lot of time coming up with the name Starliner. It's time to get rid of that. Rename, rebrand. In fact, Boeing should be named something else. That's what they need to do. Sell Boeing to themselves and rename it. It's a dead name. Used to be one of the most solid, reliable brands in America. It was like Boeing, Apple. And now it's like, Boeing. Wilmer and Williams are now set to return. I wonder if they're like having sex up there. I know they're both married, but I mean, after a while, it's like prison rules. I would think. I wonder if their wives and their wife and husband are concerned about that. It's a lot of time to be cramped up. Like, I'm cramped up here in Big Yellow. I'm like, this, I'm claustrophobic. When I'm done, I get the hell out of here. Wouldn't want to spend 6 months in here. Certainly not with my shitty cable and Wi-Fi. I was looking at my phone earlier. I have a router in here, like a mesh that bounces from my house to here. That's not bouncing a signal to my phone right now. But up in space, they're FaceTiming. So they're going to come back on a SpaceX, which is Elon Musk's company. So SpaceX will not launch until September 24th, as that mission needs to reduce its crew from 4 to 2 to make room for the stranded astronauts. So we can only send 4 at a time. How are we going to get everybody from the Earth? There's like 7 billion people now, and we can only send 4 at a time? This is a fantasy. This Earth to Mars move is an utter joke. I'm calling it now. It's a joke. It's the Bigfoot of Gen Z generation. Generation Z generation. Gen Z Jenners. The Gen Z kids. 4 people at a time who are expected to return February 2025. The Crew 9 mission will carry additional cargo as well. With spacesuits, specific spacesuits for... Boy, I wanted to get to spacesuits, that word, so badly. Those are spacesuit. 2 words in a row. As their Boeing spacesuits are incompatible with the SpaceX spacecraft. It writes itself. This podcast could just be written by AI. What a joke. What a joke. These tech a-holes make everything incompatible with other devices. This is why USB-C is becoming universal, because we're sick of moving from iPhone to, I don't even know if there's other phones besides the iPhone. What are they called? Android. Like, everybody's got the same plug. Like, make the spacesuits compatible. You know, every time I buy a new Apple device, I have to buy all new cords. This makes money. You know what else it makes? Waste. We're wasting a lot. We now have 2 perfectly good Boeing spacesuits that are going to go in the trash like fast fashion. They're going to end up back in India in a pit being burned, giving chemical release to all these people because Muskie can't have the same spacesuits. His spacesuits have to be different. Why don't you retrofit that SpaceX so the Boeing spacesuits fit? Why don't we work together on something? Again, the world working against each other rather than with each other. We would have cured cancer by now. Poverty would be gone. Poverty would be gone if we wanted it to. But poverty will never go away because, well, come see my stand-up show. And you'll understand what I'm talking about as far as that goes. USA Today, astronauts Barry Butch Wilmer and Sunita Suni Williams are stuck up in space for another 6 months. They've integrated as part of the team, on board the space station, which means they're performing routine maintenance tasks. Oh yeah, I must be bored. I'd be like cleaning all day. I'd be so bored. Conducting science experiments. Boring. In the over 2 months since they arrived, they've done research on fluid physics, plant facility maintenance, robotic operations, and observations of Earth, according to NASA. I would lose my mind. That's fun. That was like when we were locked down. Remember COVID? We were locked down. We were all excited for about a week. It got old fast. These people, imagine that. You live through COVID, because this guy, Wilmer, hasn't been back in space since 2015. So guy lives through COVID and then goes up in space and basically is living through another lockdown. God, life sucks. Their experiments aim to find ways to overcome a lack of gravity to water plants. Why don't you figure a way to overcome thrusters from Boeing that don't work? That's interesting. I guess they're working on that. I love plants. 6 months isn't unusual. They're going to put a nice spin on this. length of time for astronauts to spend aboard a space station, so there's no worry about food or other supplies running out for them, and routine supply shipments are sent up. Boy, that's got to be an expensive DoorDash delivery. You know what I mean? Sending it all the way up to space. Imagine they get up to space and not even tipped. They better be tipping those food delivery people. See, I'd be so scared that something happened on Earth and then they couldn't send the food up anymore. Like, I get food scared. All things considered, it's a pretty safe place for them to be when something on the spaceship has gone wrong. Oh boy, doesn't feel like it. Astronauts' daily lives, because I'm curious, like, what are they doing up there? Like, every day, just 2 people? I know you're FaceTiming, but that can't keep you entertained. Can they stream movies? Astronauts' daily lives in space don't look too different than our lives on Earth. Bullshit. Bullshit. I'm going to get out of here, go cook myself something, watch a little TV, pack. I'll be on a plane tomorrow. Hopefully my plane's thrusters work. It's a lot different. Aside from the scientific research and spacewalks they might complete, astronauts usually exercise at least 6 days a week. They have time off their tasks on weekends and celebrate holidays in space. This is so depressing. And they often pick up hobbies like reading, masturbation, and photography. I think I added that masturbation. Wow. I don't know. I'd lose my mind. That's why I'm not going to be an astronaut. Also, remember when that Discovery blew up? Spaceship. It was Discovery, right? Why can't I never remember which one blew up? I saw it live. I have no downlink. Didn't I play that clip once? What? I wonder if I still have it on here. That was, traumatic. After that, I said, I don't want to go to space ever. No, thank you. Maybe I don't have the... I wish I had a computer with everything that I've ever played on this podcast. And then I could just flip around and go, play the, we have no downlink. That was so weird. So weird. I'll talk about that later. Let me talk about this article from the New York Times. Let's do this, okay? Because this is something that everybody has to confront in their life, and it's called death, okay? It's so interesting. I just heard back from those people that moved my weekend twice, and they're saying that now this weekend works. Okay, good. So, great. All right, so this is from the New York Times, and the title of the article is, Doctor saved her life. She didn't want them to, when her do not resuscitate order was ignored. Mary Cooper found herself in a painful situation she had hoped to avoid. You know these DNRs, do not resuscitate? A lot of people have them, like living wills. I have one. I always say don't cut the feeding tube under any set of circumstances. That's my fear. I'm going to read the article. I'll comment along the way. Mary Cooper led her life according to her Christian faith. She baked pies for her neighbors in northern West Virginia and said grace before even a bite of food. She watched Jimmy Swaggart, a televangelist preacher, a little too loudly in her daughter's Sherry's opinion. And she always said that at the end of her life, she did not want to be resuscitated. My mother's religious belief is when it's her time to go, it's God's choosing, not hers. And she was very adamant about that. Last winter, doctors found cancer cells in her stomach. She had do not resuscitate and do not intubate. That's like put either a feeding tube or oxygen tube down your throat. Orders on file for decades, and had just filled out new copies, instructing medical staff to withhold measures to restart her heart if it stopped, and to never give her a breathing tube. In February, Miss Cooper walked into the hospital for a routine stomach scope to determine the severity of the cancer. After the procedure, Miss Uphold visited her mother in the recovery room and saw her in a panic. Despite having an oxygen tube in her nose, Miss Cooper was gesturing as if she could not breathe. She was able to force out just one word at a time. Miss Uphold called for help and was ushered to the waiting room when a medical team called an emergency code. Right? Code blue. Miss Cooper grew even more distressed and uncooperative, according to medical records. Doctors restrained her and inserted a breathing tube down her throat, violating the wishes outlined in her medical chart. I always thought do not resuscitate was like you're in a coma and you can't breathe on your own. And at that point, they just go, okay, we're going to just pull the breathing tube. That's my do not resuscitate. If I'm like awake and I'm going like this and I can't breathe and they're going to put the oxygen tube down my throat, do it. Look, I'm looking at the camera. Do it. Oxygen if I'm awake. If I'm awake. But if I'm in a coma and I'm going to be in a coma for the rest of my life and people are standing around praying that maybe I move my pinky a little bit and give them a little bit of hope, DNR. Miss Uphold, livid, confronted the doctors who could not explain why Miss Cooper had been intubated. When Miss Cooper awoke, she tried to pull out the tubes and IV lines protruding from her body. She mentioned to her daughter and the doctors that she desperately wanted her breathing tube removed. Sounds like she wants just to die. They had me tied down, Miss Cooper said. I was scared to death. Miss Uphold found herself in a situation she and her mother had always wanted to avoid. If you take that out, you're committing suicide, the daughter told the mother. And if I take it out, I'm murdering you. I won't do that. Miss Cooper nodded and squeezed her daughter's hand to show she understood. They left the breathing tube in place, and Miss Cooper developed pneumonia and went into septic shock. Days later, Miss Cooper stabilized enough for the doctors to remove the tube and allow her to go home to hospice care. The severe sickness and intubation left her weak with limited mobility. She needs round-the-clock care, and she is unable to bathe, dress, or cook for herself. Should put her up in space. Most nights, she wakes up screaming, flailing her arms, and grasping imaginary tubes. I could just feel the tubes all over in my throat, just like they were really still there. Miss Cooper, 81, says, I'd rather be dead than live like this. So what do you do? Because it says do not resuscitate, but that feels like a real gray line. Because you can save the person's life. The other thing is, a lot of the time CPR breaks ribs. It's not as clean as it is in the movies and on television, and people get hurt, and old people don't want this. Like a lot of the older generation, people over the age of 75 have this DNR. Younger people like me tend not to. I've had one since the age of 15. I just don't want to be a vegetable on a feeding tube and oxygen. That's no way to live. Because I'll be thinking in my head, I'll be like in a coma, but I'm sure I'll still have thoughts. I'll still have my intelligent brain. I'll be thinking, oh, I got to get out of this coma and do a podcast. Wonder if I have any new Patreon subscribers. Wonder if I have any new reviews. What's my YouTube count up to on my More Than Loud special? I got to get out of this coma. Get me out of this coma. Oh, it'd be hell. It'd be hell. Oh, I'd be in a coma with my brain active, just running my to-do list over and over. Oh, and then I don't get to vote in the election. I don't get to have a say. I'm just a citizen just on a feeding tube. And what if they feed me fish? I hate fish. What if all they have left is fish-flavored feeding tube supplement? I'd want out. I don't want out. But then what if I'm in the coma, but I'm really enjoying it because I'm like, oh, I don't have to do any of this stuff. I don't have to worry. None of this matters. None of that shit I worried about. Oh, how many people are watching my videos? What's my hit count? Whoa, how's the stock market doing? What if I don't have to care about any of that stuff. I'm just laying there in bliss. And they're like, all right, let's get the doctors around. He's got to do not resuscitate, so we're going to have to take him off. And I'm just sitting there trying to move my pinky. Just trying to, look at, my pinky's moving. My pinky's saying no. No, abort the do not resuscitate. I'm happier than I've ever been in a coma. So I don't know. I don't know. Oh boy. I bet that feels claustrophobic being in a coma. I bet it does. If you want to send me an email, it's what's wrong at ornyadams.com. My tour schedule, ornyadams.com/tour. I'm coming up. I'm coming up back at the Ice House, September. Brea Improv, September. October, Port Charlotte. Just thinking of the big day. Vegas, September. Vegas, November. Vegas, September 5th. Vegas, Irvine Improv, December. These are monster dates, and I hope to return to these clubs. The only way of returning to these clubs is if people show up. So, listen, you know what really helps me too? Pass along my content. Pass it along. All right, antique books can be incredibly valuable, but a new study finds. I love that. New study finds. My whole life, a new study finds. A new study finds high carbohydrate is a good way to lose weight. And then it becomes new study finds high protein diets. Stay away from carbs is a new way to lose weight. I don't know what that was about. I'm so sick of study finds. If I'm in a coma and I'm moving my pinky, means I don't want to hear any more study finds. Antique books can be incredibly valuable, but a new study finds they also hold a costly secret. A concerning new study has discovered that cloth-bound books from the Victorian era could actually poison you if you touch them. Well, the good thing is I don't like to read that much, so I feel safe. The vibrant colors, intricate designs, and many of these texts often make them irresistible to collectors and history fans. However, I do love old books. I love the smell of old books. I didn't know I was getting a good shot of lead from them. However, a team from Lipscomb University, where is Lipscomb University? That can't be in this country. Has found that some of those eye-catching hues on old book covers might come from toxic dyes. So the very thing that makes these books so appealing could also make them hazardous to everyone's health. Study finds, study finds, study finds. Well, it goes back to the Victorian era, the 19th and 20th centuries. It was a time when vibrant colors were the rage. Bookbinders of the time used various pigments to create eye-catching covers, not realizing that some of these pigments contain harmful substances like arsenic and lead. I was on the cusp of lead pencils. When I was a kid, they moved away from lead pencils, but kids used to write with lead pencils. They used to lick the pencils. Sometimes they'd write something and we used to lick paint off the wall with lead. So I'm familiar with the side effects of lead. I found lead delicious. When they went to the no lead pencils, not as delicious. Wish they'd find a lead tasting substitute, a lead, something they can put in these new pencils and make them taste as delicious as the lead ones. Obviously, I'm kidding. Nobody should go lick an old lead pencil. I have to say that because some of the books and their covers contain high levels of lead and chromium. In fact, the most contaminated cover, the lead concentrate was more than twice the limit considered safe by the CDC. And even more shocking, oh my God, it can't be more shocking, the chromium, I've never even heard of chromium poisoning. Where's chromium in our lives, besides old books? The chromium concentration was 6 times the CDC limit. Studies say, now a new study will come out and say, oh, that's actually within. New study says the CDC chromium concentration levels can actually be that of an old Victorian book. Screw you, study says. New study. Now you say, what's the big deal? Nobody's eating books. Well, the problem is toxic pigments can rub off in your hands when you handle these books, become airborne and inhaled, and can lead to serious health problems, including cancer. Everything leads to cancer, lung damage, and fertility issues. Well, maybe some of these old book collectors, we don't need them to reproduce. How about that for controversial? Okay, so the reason I was intrigued by this article is I have right here, these are my grandmother's dishes. This is actual, genuine Fiesta ware. I don't know if you can see it on the back. There's, I'm gonna put this camera and see if you can see this. You can see, like, this is, oh, wow, that's beautiful. What does it say? It says Fiesta USA Genuine. Not that, boy, this couldn't be counterfeited. Oh, let me do that. This couldn't be counterfeited. This is my grandmother's Fiesta ware, and the problem is that they used paint that had radiation, and this actually gives off radiation. Like right now, look at this. I'm talking to the astronauts stuck in space. What? You don't want to come home because your home lives are miserable? Okay, I won't say anything. What if that was the case too? Maybe they don't want to come home and they sabotage the thruster. Anyway, Fiesta ware. This is my grandmother's Fiesta ware, which I love and I never use because it will, for hundreds of years, give off radiation from what I've read. In fact, I'm tasting a little nickel in my mouth. What if this is it? I've got to really figure out what DNR version I want. Oh boy. I taste lead. That can't be good. So I just want to bring it home with this. Oh, I want to talk about the Spanish tourism. I love what they're doing over there. They're just sort of revolting against the people coming into their country and giving them enough money to keep that country alive. I don't know enough about it, but I'll talk about it. Okay, here, California. I know we love stories about California. They are coming up with new ways for recycling. Here's the deal. Recycling doesn't have a chance. And I'll tell you why. Okay? Nobody gives a shit about recycling. Nobody believes in the program. Well, the fact that if you have a container and the container has like food residue in it, they can't recycle it. Okay, somehow they're going to take the plastic and reuse the plastic, but they can't clean it if we didn't clean it. It blows my mind. Like every time I just finished a juice container and I'm cleaning, I'm washing it out, and I'm thinking I'm using a resource that is sparse here in California. Water. Okay? My friend Tom always makes fun of the way I say water. Water has a warning label. Every time I call them, water. So what I'm saying is, that's from my special More Than Loud on water bottles and warning labels. We're supposed to trust that they're going to recycle properly the old plastic and glass and cardboard, but if there's food in there, and there I am using water, something that we really need here in California. So I'm using one resource to save another resource. The whole thing doesn't make sense, and nobody can get the bins right. Nobody. I'm seeing pillows in the blue recycle bin. That's what color our recycle bins are, blue. I'm seeing pillows. The other day, a guy came over to work on my house, and he took the trash from something, and he threw it in the recycle bin. No, he threw it in the green bin, which is the leaves, the ground, your yard trimmings. And I had to go in later, like a nerd, and take it out and put it in the right trash. Because I care about the planet. But most people don't. Just go to a public space and look at the recycle bin, and it's just like they'll throw anything. They don't care. They don't care. Recycling doesn't have a chance because we don't trust it. But what California is doing, California recently expanded its CRV program, California Recycling something, with wine and liquor in a box, carton, or pouch having a 25-cent value. Ooh! And wine and liquor and juices packaged in glass, plastic, aluminum, or bimetal having a 5-cent value if under 24 ounces and 10 cents if over 24 ounces. Let me just say, if you think 5 cents is going to motivate Even the homeless don't care about 5 cents or unhoused. 5 cents. This is a bottle. This was orange juice that I bought at a store. Okay, look at this bottle. Okay, it's like a collectible. $3 deductible. $3, what do they call that thing? Not deductible, package, I don't know. I return this, I get $3 back, a deposit. That's the word I was thinking of. $3 deposit. I've had it for months. This company's probably out of business. I just know what's going to happen. If I bring it back to the store, I'm like, hey, I'd like to get my $3. It doesn't say $3 on here anywhere, first of all. And I'm going to get some kid that doesn't give a shit and is going to go, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm Gen Z. I don't know what you're talking about. It's got nice handles. Maybe I should save it. I bought a whole, at an antique place, a bunch of bottles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bottles in a nice wood thing. I negotiated, got a good deal. But what I'm saying is, this isn't motivating. This motivates nobody. This thing. Even $3. I'd like to hand this to somebody that needs $3, but I haven't brought it back. So a nickel? That's a joke. A nickel is an absolute joke. Make every container 50 cents or $1. People will be picking them up. A nickel. I'm advocating for the end of change. I have so much change. Nobody even uses cash anymore, let alone change. I know people are going to write me, donate it, donate this, donate that. Yes, there are people. I'm sure there are people. I used to see a lot more people collecting aluminum cans. I don't see that anymore. And I certainly don't see people going through in the neighborhood, going through people's trash, pulling out aluminum. So I don't know what the future is. I don't know what to do. But a nickel? A nickel! So if you collect 100 of those things, that's a lot. That's $5. I'm advocating right now to make these things a quarter. So these people working their ass off, getting these cans and recycling them, really get paid. Here's the other thing. California's going to make it easier. So one of the things they're implementing is called a reverse vending machine. So you put the thing up the machine, this thing wouldn't read, and it's got like a barcode, and then you get a nickel back. It's so absurd. We have such bigger problems on this planet, and we're doing reverse vending machines. I'm all for recycling. I'm for recycling. I'm anti litterers. I hate litterers. But I can't see us working together as a human race. I wish I could, but I can't. I wish I had more hope. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank also Jason Ellis, who I thought was an exceptional guest, who was completely honest and real. And I saw a side of him on my podcast that I did not see on his podcast yesterday, and that's why I like this podcast. But I want to know, what did you think of the Jason Ellis episode 124? Please send me an email at what'swrong@ornyadams.com, and maybe I'll do more interviews. Who knows? But I'm off. I'm hitting the road, and I want to thank everybody. I really do. I want to thank you for tuning in to episode 125, What's Wrong with Orny Adams?
What's his name, Kev?
Bringing it down. Thank you to Jason Stoltz. I told him I did that on purpose. Eric Stoltz. I said I did on purpose because I asked him to add an edit to the last podcast, and he didn't. So I said, I called you Jason on purpose, but I didn't. It's Eric Stoltz. Eric Stoltz on there. Then I'm like an idiot. I'm telling Jason, I'm going, no, it's Jason Stoltz. No, not the actor. Because I always say Eric Stoltz, and people go, the actor? Eric Stoltz, the actor? Is your sound engineer? I always wondered what happened to his career. So I'm saying to Jason Ellis, I'm going, yeah, Jason Stoltz, not the actor. And there's Jason Ellis with a dumb look on his face. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm the idiot. That's what's wrong with Orny Adams. I can be the idiot sometimes. It's rare, but it happens. It happens. So I'll come back from New York City. I'll probably take a week off, everybody. I hope you allow me that because I'm doing too much. And I got to slow down. I got to stop. I don't know why. For some reason, I used to be able to relax. I used to be able to vacation. But now it's like some sort of midlife crisis. I'm like, I got to get everything done. I got to do it. I got to do as much in a day. And it's all work related. And it's not healthy. And I don't know if it's a symptom of being locked down that now I'm going to get it done, or maybe I just know this is my final chance. That's probably what it is. All right. Thanks, everybody. I got one last chance. I got one last chance to knock it out of the park. That's what I know.